welcome to episode 6. Got to make sure I got the right fingers up there. So episode 6 of Bird Fans Forever podcast. Today we are joined by Chad Mazanowski. Our other co-host, Jon Diener's son, is graduating college, so he will be not joining us this morning. So thank you for joining us. Remember, we would love for you to get out and in YouTube, hit the like button, smash subscribe, do those kind of things. If you're looking for the audio podcast, you can go out to our website, www.birdfansforever, and then grab the link to whatever your favorite hosting podcast app is. So with that, we are going to get started here. Our first segment this morning is Chad and I had an opportunity to join Coach Pedon's Monday night virtual alumni that they're talking about doing quarterly. So, Chad, what did you think?
I like him. A lot of energy, a lot of good topics he discussed. I think he's put together a pretty good staff, a lot of energy there as well. So, he won the interview, I think is what we all say in these situations. So, that's the important first step in coaching, is to get with the fans, get with the alumni, and make sure that you have the support you need. I think he will have it.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they gave phone numbers out.
Right.
You and I always had Dan, but you played with Dan, or at least a year after Dan. Correct?
A year after, yeah. He was kind of like the head manager or whatever. Him and Jamar, came around as managers. Stallings found a way to make them a part of the program at that point.
Yeah, to finish their degrees, yeah. And
right.
So you had that relationship. I played, right, I was a former player coming back into the gym on summers, right, when they were always short players. So I built that relationship. So we had Dan's number. We still today have Dan's number. Don't ask for it, but we have it. So it was nice to get the coaches' phone numbers in case we need something or they need something for us, right? And so anytime we do, we were talking about the alumni event, Chad and I have been. I recruited Chad in to help me do the alumni stuff. More the merrier of those guys that help. And, to have all those contacts is awesome, right? Yeah. And to be able to, coordinate when we do that. Because Chad and I learned early on that as much as Dan loved the alumni being back, he's got a job to do, recruiting, running a team. So one year we had no water. Right,
or jerseys. We're trying to find
jerseys,
beanies, digging through boxes in the back of the locker room.
You're talking large human beings, right? And so they were digging through old practice jerseys, and there was like 6 number 31s, and I had to call out your jersey. I love your jersey in the back, right? And so, 44s, there was like 10 of them. Why? Because Dan liked 44. Hello, thank you.
Right.
So yeah, and it was good to see. I'm looking at the picture. Matt, coach was on, right? He's running for office there in Bloomington. Got to throw a shout out to Matt. A guy I played with, Matt Tapworth, was on. We also got to meet. You want to talk about meeting all the coaches?
Yes. Yeah. No, I liked all the coaches. You have former players that have played under Pete. So Coach Dockich, obviously comes from a pretty good pedigree of coaching. So, excited for him. He's young, energetic, and, willing to put in the time. Looking at the video, I think you can see he's in the office on the video. So that's a good thing. 7:00 conference call, he's still in the office. You like to see that. Coach Offit, I think. How did he pronounce that?
I believe he said Offit.
Offit. Yeah. Him and I have a mutual friend, kid I played with from high school. So, but same thing, energetic. Looks like they've already put in the work to get some recruits in, and doing a heck of a job so far in the short time that they've had, and even going and looking at the offers they've made for next year to offering, what was it? In one day, they offered like 8 guys from the Chicago area, which was a nice thing to see. So, and then of course, Coach Jeppson, he's been around forever. He had a stint here under Jankovic and well respected around the state, and just a great guy. I think everybody in coaching knows who, Rob Judson is. So, heck of a staff, I'm excited to see them. And, of course, Coach Pedon, had some opportunities that he turned down, but, in past years, and So it's good to hear that he wanted to be here at ISU and thinks that we can be, get back to the powerhouse that ISU was.
Yeah, yeah, and of course I'll post that picture of the Zoom call, so we'll have that up.
Yeah, I've already gotten some flack for that on Twitter of if I'm going to be the one on the other side of the court razzing the refs. So.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, they were.
We do see you, Chad, every once in a while stand up during the game.
Just once in a while.
You know how many times? So I'm in Arizona, right? And so I got to watch most of the games on TV. I'm sending Steve and John pictures anytime they were behind Dan. I get a nice picture of these two back there. And then Chad, every time the camera panned down the court, there's him and his wife and his son, right? And so giving the refs grief. And so I love it, right? I text him pictures all the time off the TV. And so
I just thought it was inappropriate when he gave his kid to Reeves so he could get closer to yell at the ref.
No, and my youngest my oldest son gets a kick out of it too. I mean, he sits there and his teachers say stuff to him in class. They're like, "Is your dad up there yelling at the refs again?" And I said he loves it. He's starting to find my wit, so I got to be careful because I don't want him to get any football flags for personal fouls for giving it to the refs. So.
Yeah, he told his teachers, "You're just strongly encouraging the refs."
Exactly. We're nice to him.
That Drake game, that call sucked. Right? And so,
which one? The first or the second one?
All right, yeah. Thank you, Steve. You at least now you got to explain what you're talking about here for those that did not pay attention to the Drake game.
Yeah, so overtime, right?
Right. Yep.
Antonio Reeves, they averaged over 20 points a game, leading scorer. Shoots the ball like right inside the free throw line, goes up, and the ball literally goes over the backboard.
Right.
And they just call it out of bounds. Our ball. And so then they go to video, and there's no way Antonio shoots the ball. So obviously
misses the ball that badly. Absolutely.
Yeah, so
from 14 feet.
He got fouled. All right. So they go to the video because they didn't touch the ball; they touched his arm. It's Drake's ball.
Right.
So.
Right.
But he was fouled. So they missed the first foul.
Right.
Yep.
And we would have had the ball if they didn't go to video. But they go to video. We stop them. We come back down. Right? And Kendall Lewis goes up point blank. And I mean, he's point blank right there, right in front of the basket. And he ends up shooting it to the left of it. And we lose. And then there's a picture. Penn's just grabbing his forearm. You can see the tattoo on it. It's a great photo.
Yeah. No, we're lucky Kendall Lewis was able to play the next game and without an injury from that foul. But hey, after the game, Coach DeVries looked over at us and was just laughing and pointing at us. I'm like, hey, you guys didn't win fair and square. You had two more players than us. Yeah. So, no, it's fun. It's always fun to sit down there. And refs are good. There's a lot of good refs, and we have fun with them.
His son was engaging with you guys and the students as well.
Yes. Yeah. Always, a lot of them do. I mean, you'll be surprised. And even my wife gets into it, and she laughs because I think Prim came, and when we beat Missouri State at home, he didn't score after she started yelling at him. So, he'd look over and he'd flex and do all this stuff. And then we win, and I wanted to text Dana and be like, "Hey, you need to have your guys pay attention to the
game." I do have a show and tell since Chad has his big jersey back there. We don't want to miss that, calling out his jersey. I pulled this out of my show and tell box. It's I got a nice little wooden plaque for. Oh, I'm sorry, Chad. Winning the Missouri Valley Conference Championship. And I got the clock being fixed, so it's good. So
we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. So we're going to take a break right here, and we'll be right back with Chad. All right, so we're starting our Chad Mazanowski show segment here, where we're talking all about Chad and his career. So we're kicking off, big man. Steve always likes to ask this question. Steve, going to ask it?
Yeah, Chad, walk us through the recruiting process and how you ended up at ISU.
So junior year, I wasn't. I had a good sophomore, junior season on varsity both years at DeKalb High School. Senior season, I came in. It was me. We had a shooter and then a freshman point guard. Or he was sophomore point guard at that time. So, and there were just three of us. I had a really good senior season, especially towards the back half. And then we win regionals, go down, play Galesburg with Joey Range, Rod Thompson. They ended up getting second in state that year. I had like 4 dunks that game. I mean, one just nasty tip dunk over Rod Thompson. And I was in the dunk contest downstate that year, and I see them both. And, they're talking to Corey Maggette at the time, and they're pointing at me, and they all come down and, oh, did you really dunk on him like that? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So it was fun for me. I knew who Corey Maggette was. He was going to Duke. He was one of the top, top guys in the nation at that time. So after that game, I started to get a little bit more interest. So all the D2, D3 schools that I had been recruited by, and kind of got away from them, and it came down to DePaul and ISU. And I remember talking to Stallings about it, and Stallings hated DePaul. This was the Pat Kennedy era, and even my dad, after we left, talking to Pat Kennedy, was like, he wanted to stop on the way home just to take a shower. I mean, the guy was as sleazy as you can get, but he was perfect for that team. It is what it was, and but it came down to the players here were just so much better. I mean, I came down to hang out with them, and I got along with them. It was a family at the time, and like the coaches, Coach Richardson was the lead recruiter kind of for me. And, so I came down to begin with as a walk-on. So my first 2 years was recruited walk-on. And then, junior, senior year, I had earned a scholarship. So, but, it was nice. My dad was professor up at NIU, so I was able to get discounted tuition on that. So it wasn't as bad, and then that helped out the team be able to use it for, other players. So, that was kind of my story. It was kind of whirlwind towards the end, but I'm glad I made the choice that I did, and, wouldn't change it for the world. So,
agreed. It's awesome. Love watching you play.
Thank you.
All right. We're now rolling in. We were going to talk about that 01-02 season.
Yeah, it's heartbreaker season. So we came into that season. The season before, Tyrese had averaged 24 points a game or something. I think it was 24.3. Finished top 10 in scoring that year. He was going to be like the 4th leading scorer coming back. So we're going into the season. We lost a couple players. Jason Hammock and Said Knight transferred out, but we bring in Boo Bojang and who else was? And Casey Reed, and then of course Greg Alexander came in, and we had Trey Guidry transferred in, but was sitting out that year, which would have been nice to have him to go along with all that. But so expectations are high. We're supposed to win conference, almost running away with it. Tyrese was, going to be all world that year. First game of the year against Weber State. It's funny, if you ask Tyrese, he took it to the basket and went up with it because he had kicked it back out to Greg Alexander a couple times, but Greg missed both of those shots. So Tyrese always jokes, he's like, I was going to give assists, so I had to get the points myself. So took it to the hoop, goes up. I don't remember exactly what happened. It's kind of a blur, but he got undercut a little bit and came down, fell on his wrist. Now, a little background on Tyrese. When you play with him in pickup games, he always pretends he hurts his wrist if he misses a shot. He made this shot, but he always pretends he hurts his wrist. And then we have to go down and play defense. So he gets his 2 points. But no, I say that joking. I love Tyrese. Tyrese was, one of the best players I've ever played against or with. And so anyway, so he gets hurt. We didn't know what was wrong at the time. He's kind of sat out. He tried coming back once or twice into the game. Just couldn't shake it. His wrist was hurt too much. And then, of course, after the game, I get a call late from Coach Novsek, that they just did an X-ray and he had some damage in his wrist and would likely be out the season. So, I give all the guys a call. We head over to his apartment, kind of hang out. He's down, obviously. It's his senior season. We're kind of all in shock. What do we do now? We're a team literally built around Tyrese. We had the talent, and we found that out later in the season, but we had the talent there to do it. It's just when you're used to having a guy like Tyrese Bryson, where, for me, my job was to rebound and get the ball to Tyrese. Or if Jeppson's open or Greg's open, kick it out to them. But, that was my sole job. And now all of a sudden, I may have to score some. Shedrick Ford has to step up. The new guys all of a sudden have to step up. And you have a freshman in Greg Alexander now that's got like hey, yeah, it's great. Like Tyrese drives the lane, kicks it out to me, I'm wide open every time. Now all of a sudden he's got a guy in his face 24/7. So we start that season rough. After that, we won that game, won the next game, but then went to Pittsburgh, played a real tough uh, Pittsburgh team with Brandon Knight, some of those guys, and they were only giving up 40 points a game at that point, and I think we probably scored only about 40. I mean, their defense was ridiculous. I look back on that, and it was a thing of beauty. If you like defense in basketball, those are one of those teams that you can go back and just watch, and it was, they're fun to watch. We ended up starting off slow in conference. I think we started the season 6-11, but finished the back half, going into the MVC tournament 10-2, got third in conference. Looking at the games we lost, with Tyrese, we could have won them, sure. There was also a tough team in Creighton that year that I don't think people expected. They were going to be second, but I mean, you had a Kyle Korver and some other players on that team, and Kyle was difficult. He was a 4. I had to guard him. I'm used to, I'm like Big Pem. In the post, I like wrestling people in the post. I can do that for 40 minutes, but when you're running off of screens against Kyle Korver, who's getting a shot off before he even catches it, it's not fun for a big guy. And
Nope.
you switch a guard onto him, and then he's down in the post, and so we don't like to do that, but it's a good memory. We always look back when we get together, and what could have been that year, and had he not gotten hurt, and he was 600 points from Doug. Could he have broken the record? Over 30 games. It's still 20 points a game. But he was on pace for it, and if anybody could have, he could have done it. Yeah. So, so it's fun.
So what happened during that season? That obviously you had the initial shock and stuff like that.
Right.
You changed the whole game plan. Did it just evolve, or was there something that kind of like triggered it? Because you lost the first 2 games in conference, and then you guys really turned it around.
Right. Yeah. And then I think we lost the first 2, and then kind of lost, and it was after the Southern game. I lived with Randy Rice and over in Woodridge. Sean Jeppson was next door, so we get Shedrick Ford over, and we kind of all sit down after that game. We get home late, and like, hey, we all need to go talk. This is our senior season. We can't go down like this. We're not going to go out.
Yep.
And we just decided to fight. And we said, we can't. We got to do this. And even Tyrese the whole time, he'd tell us, he's like, I'm embarrassed. He's like, I don't want to pretend this team was just built around me. So we go and sit down and just hash it out. We're yelling at each other, and you do this, and it just came down to, at some point you just got to do it. And, it's finding that toughness to go out, and, Shedrick played well down the stretch, and, we were lucky we had a good post. Boo Bojang came in, kind of out of nowhere, and, one of the best post players in the conference that year. And Randy Rice was kind of in a similar position to me, where he was a pass first point guard. So he'd come down, and, again, him and I lived off of giving Tyrese the basketball. Where now he's got to step up and hit some threes. He's got to step up and take the ball to the basket a couple of times. Jeppson had to learn to catch the ball, take a couple dribbles, and get around a guy and then shoot, and instead of just being a spot up shooter. So we all stepped up, and once the seniors did that, then the juniors and sophomores, and especially the freshmen, we had some tough freshmen that year, and it was just good to see us kind of rally around that. And like I said, we finished 10-2. Going to the Valley tournament as the 3 seed, and it was a fun year.
Isn't it amazing though? Like, John, you had a similar story. How
Exactly
having
it's
seniors,
almost exactly the same.
Seniors
right?
in leadership, right? And the coaches can talk and communicate all they want, but at the end of the day, having those seniors step up and lead the team.
It is.
You same thing. You had a team meeting too, and I'm sure there's been others where they've turned it around.
It was. I remember sitting down with Coach Rich, because I had ankle surgery right before the season. I had some chronic ankle pains, and throughout the season would get painkillers. But I remember at November or early December, we're trying to figure out what's going on with the team, and we're not playing well. And he sits me down in the office. He's like, you don't practice everything. He's like, what do you see when you look out there? And I told him, I'm like, coaches are providing all the energy right now that us players need to figure out how to do that. And we ended up doing that. And it is, we blame the coaches a lot, but, a lot has to come from the players as well. It falls on the seniors to step up and lead, as Jon can allude to.
Let's be honest, right? The coaches point you in the direction.
Right.
The players have got to go and want that, right?
Right.
And we had, when we heard you had that meeting and then you went on that rip roll, right? And tore through the back half of that conference, went in third seed, we were thinking you guys were us, right? Because we had done that in 90, right? We had gotten Bender. We had our heads up our butts for the first half of the season. Had a Bender locked us in the locker room. Not that that's okay, but we had a couple team fights in that locker room that night.
Right.
Well, we came back out and we were fighting. Right?
Yeah.
And so we ripped through the back half of the season. We come into the Valley Tournament third, and now we had at Redbird a little bit of an advantage here.
Right.
Just a scooch.
So right from there, after that 10-2 finish, we go right into the MVC tournament. We draw Drake first round. Tough team. They were kind of one of those just annoying. They just good defense and just always a team that you hate to play. So we get them first round. Go all game, kind of back and forth. It comes down to we get the ball with, I believe it was like 3 seconds left. They don't show it on the big board how much time is left when they show it before the games now, but get it out of bounds. Coach calls a timeout, draws a play up. Greg Alexander's passing the ball out. He's supposed to hit, Shedrick Ford, I think it was, diving to the basket for a layup. He had it written up that way. Get out there, slap the ball. Doesn't work that way. Somehow Jeppson comes around, literally grabs the ball out of his hands. He'll tell you to this day, he's like, I think that was out of bounds. The ref didn't call it, but they can't look back on it at this point, right? So Jeppson's got the ball and he's dribbling like towards half court, and we're like, there's 3 seconds left, and we're yelling from the bench, like, you got to shoot it. All of a sudden, he's in front of the bench, just kind of looks up at the clock. He's facing the scorer's table, and just jumps up, turns around, throws up the shot, and you can see the final result on the replay before every game, but. It was one of the greatest moments of my time there, of just seeing that, and those game-ending shots that just stick in your head. And I see it before every game, and I joke, and I always point out to my oldest son. I'm like, "Hey, look, there's me running off the bench. I'm about to tackle him." And I think Jeppson got the number. I think that was the number 2 or 3 play on ESPN Top 10 that night. So we were watching it and we're like, oh god, because at that time every night they do their top 10 plays.
Yeah.
Da 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 da. It was fun. So we win that game and we're just on a high, and we're ready. Now we're going to the semifinals. At that time it was, what was that? That was a Friday night. I think with a game.
Before we talk about the next game, I just got to say 2 things. One, I always wanted to know if it was drawn up that he was supposed to get the ball, because it just looked peculiar, right? And we see that play every time. It's like, was he really supposed to run in there? And then I always thought, was he supposed to shoot on the baseline or continue to the 3-point and do a turnaround jumper? But it was an amazing shot, right?
It was.
And I mean, there's been times like Dana Ford's, right? We talked about that,
right?
With Ronnie, and then there's Jackie Carmichael's, which is probably the best celebration.
Right.
But let's call it. He banked a 3-pointer. He was never a 3-point shooter.
Right.
There's Dan's game-winning shot. It was a layup. It was a great shot. Right. Because he was in the right spot. Great field pass by Kyle. But that to me was the greatest shot. Right. I mean, to sit there, all that movement. And to shoot the 3-point, if you're set, you get the pass in the right spot, your odds of making it go way up. It don't go way up by running that distance, doing a turnaround jumper at that spot on the floor. And to make that to me was the all-time. And then just watch you guys celebrate.
It was.
I probably didn't even see you celebrate because I probably hit my head on the ceiling jumping up and down.
It definitely wasn't drawn up that way. That was just savviness on Jeppson's part to go get the ball. That's, again, getting back to the whole senior thing. That's just a senior not wanting to lose, and he went and got the ball. Now, we can argue at that point where his head was because he was dribbling away from the basket. And like, no, dude, go that way. You're going the wrong way. And then, just jumps up, turns around, shoots it with a hand in his face. And, it's a great memory.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. We're going to roll in and talk about the 99 season, right? That was the next one on your list.
Right. So, again, a rough season. That was coming off of, we had just lost Leroy and Coach Stallings and KP, Kev Pearson, Kyle Cartmill. So we're going into that season, low expectations. I think we were picked for last in the Valley that year. But, rough season. We get to senior night. And one of the big things that Stallings and eventually Richardson, kind of similar, same philosophy, you don't lose on senior night. We always send our seniors out of Redbird Arena on a winning note. So that night, we're playing Drake. I guess Drake used to be in a lot of our highlights. That was, they were kind of the fun ones to beat up on. But we're down 10 with 2 minutes to go. And, we're all just sitting there like, we're going to lose on senior night. And but we didn't feel like we were out of it at that point. So we all of a sudden on this run. Not Kyle Cartmer. Ryan Crowley steps up, hits a three. A guy that shot maybe 5-6 threes all season. Hits a three, gets it to within 2. We foul. I think they're making their shots. They're making the foul shots. Come down and we were hitting threes left and right. Rich Byers is hitting threes. Tyrese is hitting threes. Crowley's hitting more threes. I think a few other people that didn't have any business hitting threes are hitting threes. We end up getting the ball with a couple seconds to go, bringing it up. Tyrese brings it up, hits a shot from the beak of the bird, like a pull-up jumper from the beak of the bird to send us into overtime. We go into overtime, win by 10, and box score after the game. We had scored 50 points between that 2-minute stretch at the end of the game and overtime to go on and to win that game. And it just took an all-out effort. And again, that was the seniors. That was Ryan Crowley and those guys stepping up and saying, I'm not leaving Redbird Arena a loser. So, just another game where you look back on it and you're like, how do you do that? 50 points in 7 minutes. That's insane. It's on pace for scoring. What is that? 500
a lot.
Or 250 points in a game. So, but took a Herculean effort to be able to do that, but we pulled it out and did it.
That is awesome. Awesome. All right. Next one we wanted to talk about was the NIT game versus Purdue.
Yes. So that was after the junior season. We kind of came from behind, came out of nowhere, surprised everybody. Tyrese made a name for himself that year. He was top 10 in scoring in the country at 24, somewhere in the 24 range, and just having a phenomenal season. So we go 22-10. We're sitting there. We think we have an outside shot at the NCAA tournament. So, we're in the arena that night, and we can't watch. We're sitting there just hanging out. Coaches are up, watching it on TV, and we're playing pickup games and shooting. And they come down and let us know we didn't make the NCAA tournament. We're making the NIT, but we're going to Purdue, a place we had played. I think that would have been our second time. But Coach Katie, we're going to see Coach Katie, and again, Purdue. They had the raised floor, kind of an insane atmosphere. And we go in there, and one of the best single games I think you'll ever see a kid play. Tyrese is there, and some of the freshmen. I think maybe it was Dan or Kyle had kind of talked about when they were older and in the NIT, and how the older guys, it's like, heck yeah, like we're doing this. Some of the younger guys were at the point of, I just want to go home. Like it's spring break, my buddies are home. I want to go see mom, and Tyrese wasn't going to let us lose. Unfortunately, I think we did end up losing that by a few points, but he goes off for 38 that game. And Purdue threw everything. I mean, they were almost triple teaming him at some points. And that the summer after that, I was working Michael Jordan basketball camp, and their point guard Dean and one of the other players were sitting there, and we were just up one night hanging out, and they're like, "Where did Tyrese end up going?" And we're like, "What do you mean?" They're like, well, what's he doing after college? We're like, he's a junior. They're like, he's coming back. They're like, Coach Katie made us run for like 2 hours after that for the defense we played. He thought we played terrible defense. And he's like, we were like, Coach, no, the kid was just amazing. And he's one of those players that if he was hitting his shots, he's stepping in, hitting threes in people's face, and there's nothing you could do to guard him. Because then if you try and guard the three, then he's going around you, or he's getting to the basket and you have to foul him. One of the best players at being able to use his body, and if he hadn't hit enough shots, he was getting fouled and getting to the line, and he could go 5 for 20, but still score 20, 25 points, and it was just amazing.
He did, and I complain about this or bitch about it a lot, is when a guy goes cold, and Tyrese did as much as anybody else,
right?
He stopped shooting,
right?
And just took you to the rack. Head
Yep.
fake, go to the rack, get to
Right.
the line, right? Either get a layup in, get to the line, hit a couple free throws,
Yep.
and then you get your confidence back. I say that all the time, right? If you go cold, you miss 2 and 3 shots, go to the rack, get
Yep.
a dunk, get a layup, get a 3-point play, get to the free throw line. You're sitting there. What a great way to practice your shot in front
Right.
of thousands of people, and it's a free throw.
Right.
My dad said it. My wife's dad said it all the time. It's free.
Right.
Right. And so, and he was just a master at that. And
He
then
was.
all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, the man is on fire again, right? It's
Right.
like, it's like the microwave had turned off, like Vinny the microwave, and somebody had reset the timer and turned it back on, and now he was firing back up again. And so he was a master. The players today don't get that,
No,
right?
no, they don't. And free throw is the most efficient shot in basketball. If you're good at it, I wasn't. And for me, it probably wasn't the most efficient. For me, it was getting the ball and dunking. But if you figure if you're shooting 75 points or 75%, you're getting a point and a half every time you step to the line. So it's.
I was 4 for 10 my freshman year, but then after that, I shot well into the high 70s, low 80s, right? But
Yep.
I was shooting 50 to 100 a night during the summer,
Right.
so my driveway, right? I
Right.
practiced that, so yeah. All right, this has been awesome. We're going to break here, and then we're going to come back, and Chad and Steve and I are going to debate the national image likeness. By the way, the NCAA, that sucks because National Letter of Intent has been around forever. But Chad and I signed one, and now you got to come up with the same 3 letters. You just switch the order. So we'll be right back.
So we're back, and we're going to kick off the topic, NIL. It's a hot topic, and it's a changing thing. It's progressing over the last 2-3 years. But Chad, I'm just going to open it up. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, where there was a recruit that went to University of Miami, got $800,000, okay, and then a teammate, we're not going to talk about individual players, put on Twitter that he was renegotiating his contract.
Yeah.
And when you see stuff like that, well, I mean, what's the first impression that you have versus like when you were in school?
Right, and it's tough. We've talked, off air about, John and I about, our troubles even just getting food for food or money for
Right.
food. So, we lived off of the stipend you'd get. If you were at if we stayed at Waterson, you had your meal plan, which always ran out.
Waterson.
Yeah, which always ran out by second month. We run through that. And then during the season, you didn't have anything to eat, and you're trying to scrounge food, or you live off campus and you got the stipend, but they had to go to pay rent and bills and all that stuff. So a lot of Jack's pizzas, Totino's pizza rolls, stuff that's not the best to eat and then go play 4 hours of basketball. I always started. I think senior season I started at 235. Not a plump 235. That was start of the season, so we've already been doing workouts. But I think I was down into 225, 228 by the end of the season, and you still try and lift. But to see numbers like that, that's crazy. That's getting into the NBA, and good for those kids. It's awesome. I'm happy for them. But I remember sophomore season, I was upset just because of the rules. Yeah, NCAA basketball, I think 99 or 2000, whatever they called it at the time. I was ISU number 31 on the game. I'm like, I just want my name on a video game. Like, how cool would that be to just have Mazanowski, ISU Mazanowski. And I'd have that and I'd take pictures and frame it. But no, it was ISU 31, but it was 6'6", number 31, and he played power forward at ISU. And we all played our own guys, but I would have settled for that in college. Let alone $800,000. You can come out of school and be pretty well off already.
Well, and I called out, right, the fact that, when I was in school, 12 years ahead of Chad, that, my last year, the coaches may or may not have been giving us up in us dollar bills so that we could get peanut butter and cream cheese for our bagels when we got off the thing, right? Because a bagel is a snack, cream cheese, and so we laugh about that, right? And so same thing, right? The number of times White Hen Pantry sat below Waterson, I think it's called something else today, or went out to Jewel. You're sending 18, 19-year-old kids. We were complaining about this in our little break, and I know what we would get: Suzy Q's, Oreos, everything needed to, And like Chad, I started at 255. It would end about 245, 240 my senior year. You'd lose 10 or 15 pounds. And so this NLI, I found it very interesting. Missouri State, which I like to still call Southwest Missouri. Mm-hmm. Mobley, Dana Ford probably pulled together some kind of NLI for him, NIL. And by the way, NCAA, you suck because it's National Letter of Intent and versus National Image Likeness. So National Image Likeness, Mobley got one, and he still went into the portal. So what does that say?
Right.
Says he probably can get more somewhere else.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and you have people in these kids' ears too. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. How many kids go elsewhere and don't have the same support system and everything. You're a big or small fish in a big pond at that point. You're just one of another players as opposed to being a big fish in a small pond. And
well, in our first episode, we had a segment where I called out that 14 guys that had transferred, only 12, because I had 2 current players that I'd already said. Right. Now, it was a little foreshadowing because both of them ended up going into the portal.
Right.
But 2 really had good seasons so far, right? The 2, so it's actually 12. DJ Mahorn out at ASU is playing pretty well, getting about 10, 12 points and starting. And then I forgot the kid's name. I don't have my notes in front of me. Who went to Tulsa, played 2 seasons.
Ray Andowo.
Thank you. Yeah, he had 8, 9 points. He's a big, so he got 8, 9 points and 6, 7 rebounds. So he had a pretty good season. Most of the rest of them, you just don't hear of them again, and so it's sad, right? And so, what have they been? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch the National Image Likeness and how does every Division I team navigate that. And on the 16th, ISU we're opening our own center to help student athletes and people connect, right? Is that correct, Chad?
Correct.
Did I get that information right?
So they'll be there. So the athletic department is going to run that and kind of explain NIL because there's a lot of intricacies. I mean, it's not even straightforward. You're seeing now where the NCAA is coming out and saying, yeah, some of you bigger schools that are being pretty out there with it, you're probably breaking some rules. So, that's the tough part is, we're still small. We don't have deep pockets. We don't have the Wichita State, the Koch brothers who can just say, who do you want? Let's just, we'll write a check and, kind of self-fund that. And we can't pay guys $800,000 or whatever. And that's just the reality of it. If we can figure it out at ISU, there may be some way to do a pool of money and go about it that way. But even that's hard. There's not the big money donors here that can just give, especially something like that to just keep buying players. And you have to do it every year. It's not just a one-time donation. Right. So
and we have some big donors.
We do.
It's just a matter of, not to say that Illinois State doesn't. We have some mighty big donors.
We do.
That are awesome. How do they? One thing I want to know is how does the athletic department navigate that, right? Because they donate to athletics, and that goes to the entire pool. Or do you put your money to an NIL, and then athletics doesn't quite have as much, but do they make more because they have more they're winning more games and they're going to a
Right.
tournament and they're making the money
Right.
that way. I don't know how that works, and nor do they tell me how that works either.
Yeah,
Because
that's
we're fans. Chad and I are fans just like everybody else now, right?
Right.
The only difference is my fan says, Jon Pemberton fan, former player.
Right.
So,
right, and that's what we hope. Kyle Brennan and Mark Mulhauser can figure out as a way to still keep ISU competitive and put something in place that we can at least at the mid-major level to do that. And, kids are still going to leave. It's unfortunate. We're just at an age where kids are going to leave, and every year we're going to see a couple of them, and it sucks. But it is what it. We'll have to figure that out as well. That's where that's Coach Pedon and Dockich and Jeppson and Offit with they're going to have to figure out and navigate.
yeah.
I still think though that the teams that are going to be successful in the Missouri Valley in particular are going to be teams that can not stop it but mitigate
Right.
that turnover. Okay,
Right.
Can you get a core that can be there for 3-4 years through the leadership that you guys talked about previously,
Right.
and develop that relationship, because it does make a difference. And I think if you look at Drake and their success recently, they've been able to maintain some of those players and
Right.
get them to come back that extra year of COVID. They've stayed. They just announced 4 more players coming back, and they've had some of that success.
And on the positive with that is there's going to be those 3 and maybe some 4-star recruits that Kentucky's not recruiting anymore. If they're not getting a 5-star recruit, they're just going to go and go take Antonio Reeves from ISU, who they know, who they have tape on, and they don't know how a 3-4-star recruit's going to turn out. So now
Especially as a freshman,
right now that pool's going to be open for mid-major programs, ISU, Missouri Valley teams to go pick off some of those. And you'll get better freshman recruits, and it's just a matter of how do you keep them around. And it's interesting. We'll see how it plays out. And,
But I think you're hitting on how that success is. You get those 3 or 4 core, and then what do you do to sprinkle in around it in
Right.
that 1 to 2 year window, right?
Right.
When you have that opportunity, bring in that talented freshman, bring in that grad transfer, and kind of push all chips in at those 1-2 years.
Yeah, and coaches have a much tougher time today, right, in building that chemistry. Chad talked about earlier in the episode, talked about him and Shed. I think it was Trey, and who else? You guys all at Woodridge. When you guys got together.
Randy
and
Rice and Sean Jeppson.
And Sean Jeppson.
Yeah.
They had a little coming to Jesus meeting that probably got heated and pushing and shoving, and my team had the same thing, right? And we rattle off the back half of the season just like Chad's team did. But those are guys that had been together for 3-4 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tested in the paint, tested out on the court, tested together, practice, preseason, running late at night, getting yelled at, telling the dumb stories. That's the brotherhood that coaches now have to try to develop inside of 3 or 4 months that we did in years, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to solve this. I wish we could. If I won a lottery ticket, I'm not sure how much my wife would allow me to give to the university. Depending on the number, it'd have to be tens of millions of dollars. So we still have 2 in college right now. So
Right.
it's going on. And Chad's got 1 heading to college and 1 heading to college in 18 years. So,
Yep.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And ISU's success is determined on how quickly they can gel a team, how well they can navigate the transfer portal, and how well they can navigate national image likeness. So
Absolutely.
with that, this is going to be the end of episode 6. Chad, thank you so much for being here, big boy. Right?
Thank you, guys.
We love you. Love watching you play. You were awesome. He's been my wingman for the alumni stuff, and really I've been his wingman a lot. So it's a great effort there, and so can't wait till we play the game and catch you soon. And with that, we are done.